Okay, I'm like ridiculously excited to film this video. I literally just spoke within the first 0.2 seconds of me turning my camera on. That's how excited I am. Also, try to ignore the rat's nest that's living on my head right now. This is what I call my natural hair. It's rough. I fell asleep with my hair wet and up, so now it's just a crinkly mess and you're gonna have to deal with it. Also, I know I've worn this shirt like 45 times. I don't know why I love this t-shirt so much, but it's becoming my brand. Fuck you. I talked about this a little bit in last week's video, last week's scary story, but I have another scary story for you guys. But Tia, okay, so she's written a couple of the stories that I've read. She also is the one who bought me my Ouija board. She bought me my fucking apron that I wore only once in my cooking videos. I need to make another cooking video. I just need to do that shit. But she wrote another story and she sent it to me like a week ago, I think, and I'm so excited to read it. I have not read it. I have not opened it. I'm so excited to read it. She is an amazing author. I feel like I'm so paranoid all the time about having lipstick in my teeth. She is an absolutely amazing person and an absolutely amazing author, and I'm so excited to read her story. And I'm gonna promote her really quick. She didn't ask me to do this. I'm doing this because I love her and I appreciate her, and she's been writing all these stories for me to read on my channel. Well, not just for me to read, but like stories, and then she'll send them to me to read on my channel. But she has a poetry book coming out January 31st, and so it'll be available on Amazon, Kindle. I think there's a paperback like copy coming out. It's called Between the Lines. I'm gonna link it in every fucking video that I ever post for the rest of my life. I'll let you guys know when it comes out. I'll probably talk about it a million times because I want you to buy it. She's gonna send me one as well, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I love you, Tia, and I know you're watching this right now, and I love you, and thank you so much for always writing such amazing stories. I'm so excited for your book to come out. Okay, I'll have Tia linked down below, and I'll have the other stories that she's written that I've read linked down below, and I'll have her YouTube channel, everything. Oh fuck, I need permission from her. Okay, stand by. Okay, we had to move locations really quick because I ended up editing an entire video, making a thumbnail, but I finally have the story. I had to wait for her to send me or give me permission to the story, so now I have it. I'm actually gonna scoot you guys back a little bit more. Wow, I look crusty. I'm gonna lean back. I'm gonna get really comfortable for this video. So this story is called I've Been a Missing Person for 15 Years. It started the summer after I graduated high school. I went out to a party with a couple of my friends to smoke and get wasted. I'd never been in that area of town before, the slums, and I'd felt a little uneasy at first, but rolled along with it so I didn't seem like a downer. The place was pretty crowded. It was an apartment building, and I mean the whole apartment building was throwing a party. There were solo cups and deafening music in each apartment, and people also spilled into the hallways. I hadn't even been there for an hour before what I thought were the effects of the alcohol and weed taking control. I began to get louder, but everything else got quiet. My friends looked at me as if they didn't know who I was. My vision was blurry and I felt lightheaded. I saw their lips moving and they patted my back, hard. They were trying to get me to throw up. And I did, all over some girl's countertop. I got kicked out. Staggering down the steps towards the parking lot, my friends trailed behind me. I'd been drugged, and we all knew it. My friend who drove us to the party let me pass out on the back seat while they went back inside, but he didn't lock the doors. I don't know how long I was out for. I just remember waking up to pitch black. There was a small amount of red light coming in through the windshield, and as I sat up to get a better understanding of where I was, the most horrific thing I've ever seen was displayed in front of me. My two friends that I'd gone to the party with were sitting in the front, their heads tilted to the side, exposing their slashed throats. Blood was splattered everywhere, most of it on the windshield, the parking lot light giving it a disturbing glow. I felt my chest tighten up and my jaw go slack as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. I scrambled out of the car, panting slightly. I remember clutching at my hair as if it would somehow make me completely sober and make reality go away. In the middle of my incoherent breakdown, I saw a piece of paper tucked away under one of the windshield wipers, so I tried to focus on that and ignore reality a little bit longer. I removed the piece of paper and had to hold it out in front of me at a certain angle so I could try and read it properly while in my fog. My eyes. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I looked around. Once, twice. The parking lot was empty. This was a joke. It had to be a fucking joke. Sick. I felt sick, and then I spewed all of my stomach contents in front of me, which brought the paper with it. I wasn't sober. I wasn't sane. I wasn't awake. I couldn't have been. All I could think to do was run. So I ran. I ran away from the empty crack house parking lot with my two dead friends in the car and my missing persons poster covered in vomit on the blacktop. I never looked back. Even after I sobered up behind a dumpster, I never looked back. I know it sounds crazy too. I should have went home. No doubt people were looking for me. They probably thought I killed my friends. I mean, I was drugged at a party that had so many people who could say they saw me leave with them. I've seen enough TV to know that I'd be the prime suspect. I felt horrible, mostly for my parents. I know they must have been worried sick, but I just couldn't bring myself to go back, so I hid on the streets. I thought I'd be safe until I could figure my situation out. I was wrong. The posters followed me to every single homeless shelter I wound up at. Each poster was plastered on the front entrance. They were the same as the one from that night. I'd tear them down before anybody could notice who they were housing and sleep my worries off until the morning, when I'd find more taped to the bathroom doors and slipped underneath my cots. But it seemed as if nobody else noticed, so I thought I was seriously starting to go insane, began to question if I had killed my friends. I jumped around to 7 or 8 homeless shelters in the course of 2 years before I scraped up enough panhandling money to pay for a new identity. The process I went through was long and tiring, and I don't want to endanger the person who provided me with what would be my new life, so I've chosen to leave any further details out of the story. I became 20-year-old James Kirkland. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, got a job as an overnight cashier at a gas station down the street. I grew out a short beard and dyed my once brown hair to be jet black. I even got myself a gym membership to bulk up. I know it sounds crazy, but I quickly settled into my new life. I made new friends. I got away with a backstory of being a foster kid, so no questions were asked when it came to my family. My anxiety levels seemed to die down as I truly became James Kirkland. Everything seemed peaceful for the next couple of years. I was promoted as the manager of the gas station before being bumped up to branch manager. Then I met a wonderful girl named Penny. She was the definition of my dream girl. Smart, funny, down to earth, and bubbly. Her looks were just a bonus. She had long, wavy auburn hair and striking blue eyes. Her skin was olive-toned, and when she smiled, her dimples seemed to release butterflies in my stomach. I fell, fast. We moved in together after dating for 10 months. I thought everything would have been okay. I woke up in the middle of the night to our German Shepherd, Jax, whimpering by the side of my bed. I reached down to comfort him in my sleepy haze when my fingers sank into his fur. His damp fur. I quickly drew my hand back in surprise and was able to see a dark substance covering my fingertips, even with no light on in the room. I rolled over to ask Penny to turn on the light, but she wasn't lying beside me. I bolted out of the bed and turned on our bedroom light and immediately felt the air dissipate from my lungs. Jack sat in front of me, his once beautiful coat of brown and black fur covered in blood. The same blood that was smeared across the carpet, against the dresser, and Penny's side of the bed. There was a pool of it by her pillow. That's when I knew the blood didn't belong to Jax. I searched throughout the house for any sign of Penny, using smears of blood on the floor as a guide, but she was gone. The trail of blood led to our back door and stopped there. The door was closed and still locked, but the trail just ended. I called 911. By the time the police got there, I was a shaking, worried mess. Investigators taped off the crime scene, and Jax and I were taken out into our front yard and swabbed for evidence before I could clean off and Jax could be hosed down. As the investigators continued collecting evidence, I called Penny's family to alert them of what was happening. Her parents flew in the next day to see for themselves. It was obvious foul play was involved, so the search for a missing person quickly turned into the search for a body, and within a week, I became the prime suspect in Penny's disappearance. I was held in an interrogation room for hours, trying to answer every question the investigators asked with complete honesty. Thankfully, they could only hold me for so long, and without any leads to go on, I was released and sadly had to go back home, to an empty house, and an empty heart. I felt numb. Yes, Jax was with me, but he was just as miserable as I was. We both just laid there in silence, with Jax huffing or whimpering every once in a while. I have no idea how long I laid on the couch, but judging by the smell of me, it had to have been for a couple of days. I would occasionally get up for a drink. Hunger eluded me. Penny's parents blamed me for their daughter's disappearance, and the number on my MySpace friends list began to decrease. Everyone thought I had something to do with Penny being gone. Hell, little did they know that something similar to this happened before, but when I was a different person. I began to think there was something wrong with me. I was slowly slipping into my old self. Closed off, paranoid, anxiety-ridden. Even Jack seemed to avoid me on most days, until he too disappeared without a trace. However, there was no blood this time, so I only assumed he ran away. Fast forward a month later, I received a letter in the mail from the police station, signed by Penny's parents. They were asking me to come in and take a voluntary lie detector test. I'd seen enough movies and TV shows to know that I would fail within the first few questions because I wasn't really James Kirkland. And once everybody knew the truth, including my past, I was going to be arrested for sure. I spent the next few hours pacing around my house and biting at the skin around my nails, trying to find the best way out of the situation, when I heard a soft knock on the door. Skeptical of who it might be, I walked to the front window, peeking out from the curtains to see who it was. There was no one there. I waited a few moments in hesitation to see if any local kids were playing a prank on me or if the local news station was trying to coerce me out of my house, trying to get me with another interview. No one came into sight. I carefully opened my front door and poked my head out, first checking the street, then the driveway, then both sides of the front yard. Still no one. A small wave of relief flooded me, and I shrugged. about to brush off the sound as if I was hearing things before a white flash in the corner of my eye froze me to the spot. In that moment, all my fears became realized, and I felt my heart drop into my stomach. With shaky hands, I peeled the taped piece of paper from my front door before slamming it shut. It was a missing persons poster, and it didn't read Penny's name. It was for James Kirkland, and the picture was of me, sleeping in my bed with Penny beside me. She was facing the camera. Her eyes were wide and lifeless, and her head was tilted a bit upwards, enough for me to notice the large slash across her neck. History seems to have a sickly, funny way of repeating itself, because I began to empty my stomach contents all over the floor. It took a while for me to calm down. I was still shaking violently when I finally made my way over to the couch to sit, the crumbled piece of paper grasped tightly in my fist. They found me. After I moved, changed my appearance, changed my identity, and built a new life for myself, they still found me. I had no idea who was doing this or why, but it became clear that I was being taunted and maybe even hunted. I was desperate. I was confused. I was angry. I was stuck. If I showed this to the police and explained my entire story, they would throw me into a mental institution without a second thought. I was on my own. I couldn't ignore the fact that from now on, I couldn't get close to anybody, because that would be putting them in danger too. So I ripped up the paper into hundreds of tiny pieces until you could barely make out any of the letters. Then I flushed those pieces down the toilet. I spent the rest of my day packing a small duffel bag and a backpack filled with essentials I would need, including the information I had hidden away when I changed my identity the first time. And it's a good thing I kept it. James Kirkland was dead. Sure, he was going to be blamed for Penny's death, but there was no way to get out of that one. I drove my car 40 miles south before placing a brake on the gas pedal and jumping out before it drove off a bridge. A murder-suicide seemed to be a good end to James's story. I left the scene before any witnesses could spot me walking away, and I continued to walk through the woods for 2 days straight. I wound up at a quiet bus station and took a quick trip to a public bathroom, where I shaved my beard and used box dye to change my jet black hair to a horrible bleach tone. I then bought a one-way ticket to the first bus that was available, and that's how I wound up in Greensboro, North Carolina. It wasn't hard for me to find shelter, under the alias of Peter Bergen. I then used the information I had saved to send money and make another request for an identity change. Luckily for me, it all came within 2 weeks. I then took this opportunity to change my location again. I knew it still wasn't safe for me yet. My next home was a motel room in Galax, Virginia. Rent there was cheap, and I got by bussing tables for a local tavern. I made sure I kept myself hidden, and I kept myself quiet. My coworkers would invite me to play pool or go bar hopping, but I just mumbled that I wasn't interested. I hoped that would be enough to drive them away, but Sally, a very stubborn waitress who worked the night shift, just wouldn't leave well enough alone. "Peter, why do you always have to push people away? We've known each other for months now, and not once have I seen you go out and have some fun." Her drawn-out southern accent sent shivers down my spine, and not in the pleasant way. "Sally," I whispered, "I like to keep to myself. I'm not going to be here much longer anyways, so what's the point of making friends and getting comfortable?" I finished wiping down the table and moved past her, making sure that our shoulders touched just enough for her to have to catch her balance. I thought an intimidation act would get her to back down. "Well then, if you're just going to go anyways, why not make a night out of saying goodbye to all of us, huh? You don't have to be so closed off. Stop being an asshole and get yourself some manners." Fuck. I heard Sally tap her nails along the table I had just cleaned, daring me to challenge her again. I slowly turned around, sighing with my shoulders slumped. There were still customers present in the room, and other employees. I didn't want to draw any attention. It was the last thing I wanted. "Listen, okay, you know what? You're right. Maybe I do need to loosen up. I'll go out for a beer or two with the guys or something. How about you just go out for a beer with me?" Sally batted her eyes at me, her eyebrows now raised with her hip jutted out slightly in a suggesting pose. So this was her angle. I shook my head in disbelief. "You're kidding me, right? I just told you I'll be leaving," I said. "Now, don't let your head get any bigger than it already is. I'm not interested in you in that way." "Oh, damn. Now I just look like an idiot. I grew up in this town and should be the one to show you what there is to do around here before you leave. When is it you said you were leaving again?" "Next Sunday." "Well then, looks like you're going to be pretty busy next Saturday night, so you better mark it on your calendar," she exclaimed before strutting away, her boots clunking with each step. I ran a hand through my hair in annoyance before continuing on with my work. The day was almost over, but I didn't want it to end. The faster the days went, the closer Saturday would approach. It seemed so far-fetched to worry about something so little when I'd be leaving the next day, but the past proved I couldn't let my guard down, not even for a second. Saturday came way too soon. I didn't want Sally to be any more involved in my life than she already was, so I told her to meet me at the bar rather than her come to pick me up, or the other way around. We were supposed to meet at 9. I sat in my bar stool, already sipping my dirty martini around 8:50. Soon, my dirty martini was gone, and I ordered a glass of water. 9:10. Never make plans with a woman with a set time. 9:20. Maybe she was stuck in traffic. 9:45. I had finished my water and the second dirty martini. There was still no sign of Sally. My stomach did a couple flips. Of course, it could have been the alcohol taking effect, but I knew in the back of my mind that something was very wrong. Luckily, the bar was a couple blocks down from the restaurant we both worked at, so I walked over to see if maybe she got confused and thought we were meeting there. "Hey, Peter." Charlie, one of the cooks, waved to me as I walked in. I waved back and took a look around the restaurant. There were maybe only a handful of customers, and no sign of Sally. I know I wasn't really close with the girl, but I was really worried by this point. "Hey, Charlie, have you seen Sally around?" "No, man, she took the night off. Isn't she hanging out with you?" Charlie raised his eyebrow at me while looking over the counter. That's what I thought," I shrugged. "She was supposed to meet me at Bradley's at 9, but she never showed." "Huh, that's weird. It's not like Sally to flake like that. I mean, she's worked here for 6 years and she's never been late." I nodded in response, shifting nervously on my feet. Charlie's comment only strengthened my worries. I had to go check on Sally. After saying goodbye to Charlie, I walked back to the bar to get in my car and drive over to Sally's place myself. On the short drive there, I decided to ring her a few times, but she didn't pick up. I'd only been to Sally's place once before, and that was to give her a ride to work because her car died. Pulling into her driveway at 10:30 at night was a little nerve-wracking. The girl still lived with her mother in a duplex on the town line, surrounded by trees, making the driveway almost pitch black. When I pulled up, I saw both Sally's car and her mother's car in the driveway, but all the lights in the house were off. I stared at the front door for what seemed like hours, trying to will myself to move. Finally, I turned my car off and stepped out, slowly making my way towards the door. I didn't even reach their stoop before I noticed a piece of paper placed on the welcome mat with a rock weighing it down. I'm not exaggerating when I say I sank into myself. Missing persons. Peter Bergen. Me. It was me all over again. They found me the day before I was supposed to leave. I didn't even have to open the door to know what I would find on the other side. My stomach churned again, but I fought the urge to puke. I snatched the paper from the stoop, shoving it in my pocket before getting in my car and driving back to my motel. I packed as much as I could within 20 minutes before taking off. On my way out of town, I stopped by an old gas station payphone to anonymously alert the police to go to Sally's house. It was the best I could do. From my second identity came the third, then the fourth, then the fifth, and so on. I was constantly traveling, changing my appearance, getting used to a different name. Wisconsin was Joseph Lamer. Oregon was Liam Venice. Oklahoma was Brandon Fisher. Delaware was Adam Turnage. When I was James, I lasted a year and 7 months. Peter only lasted a year and 2 months. Joseph lasted a year. Liam and Brandon each lasted 8 months. Adam was 6 months. With each identity I took on, the quicker they found me. I truly was being hunted. The posters would find me anywhere. Shelters, my apartment, my job. One even found me in a porta potty. Soon enough, my identities began to blur together to the point I wasn't even sure what month or year it was. I'd forget which identity I was on and wouldn't notice when people would call me. Even when I did notice, I would pretend I didn't. I couldn't put anybody else at risk, even if they were strangers. I couldn't live with myself if there was another death hanging over my head. Hell, I could barely live with myself anyways. You have no idea how many times I contemplated suicide, but I was always too much of a coward to go through with it. I hadn't been pushed hard enough to end it, yet. Even after everything I'd been through, I still needed that final push. And it's with the identity I have now that may change all of my hard work. In the past 15 years, my identities have been flawless. My names were created as if they were my backstories, and I never experienced any problems regarding my identities. But this time, it's different. 2 months ago, I moved to East Hampton, Massachusetts under the name Jacob Pasick. I got a job a couple of towns over as a janitor at a community college. About 3 days ago, I was mopping a men's bathroom one morning when a younger man, probably in his late teens or early 20s, rushed in and bumped into me, knocking me over. "Oh, sorry man, I didn't mean to run into you." He offered me his hand and helped me to my feet, and when I looked at him then, I noticed something. His hair was dark brown and short, reaching just above his ears. He was around 5'10" or 5'11" in height, and his eyes were so dark they almost looked black. His thin, pink lips were outlined by some stubble, the same color as his hair. His jawline was strong and square, making the dimple in his chin stand out even more. I was taken back a bit. This man looked exactly like me, down to the dimple in his chin and everything. He looked exactly like who I was 15 years ago. The real me. You okay?" He waved his hand in front of my face to get my attention. I blinked a few times, having not noticed I was staring. "Huh? Oh, yeah, sorry. I just spaced out a bit. No worries. I'm almost done cleaning up in here, so the bathroom will be free in a few. but there's another bathroom down at the end of the hall if you really need to go, I said, grabbing my mop once more to continue on with my work. Okay, thanks. And hey, your last name is Pasic too? His question got my attention and I immediately turned to face him. He was pointing at the name patch on my suit. Pasic. I gave a short nod. I just wanted him to go away. Cool, not many people in the area have Pasic as a last name. I should know. I've lived here all my life. My name's Jacob. Jacob Arnold Pasic. You can call me Jake. Shit. He held his hand out for me to shake, but I didn't move. I couldn't move. I was given the name of somebody who already existed. They were alive, even down to the middle name. And I had somehow moved into the same area that he lived in. To you, whoever's reading this, yeah, it may not sound like a big deal, but given that I had over 20 different identities without ever reaching a complication like this, I just know it's not going to end well. And I didn't even respond to the kid. I just bolted. I left him standing there like that. I quit my job the same day, and now I'm back in a homeless shelter. I already put in for a new identity, and now I just have to wait a week or two. Except I'm not sure I have that long. And I think I may have put that kid in danger because I found another poster under my cot this morning, with Jacob Pasic printed at the top. But there were 2 pictures at the bottom. Okay, that is the end of the story. Oh my god, I was not expecting it to be like that at all. But Tia, what the fuck? I know she's coming out with more parts to this because she told me that she would send them to me and she's writing them, but oh my god. I hate this because I don't know how you guys write these stories, and every single time I'm left on a cliffhanger and then you're left on a cliffhanger and I just want to keep reading. But I hope you guys enjoyed this story. If you guys have any other stories you want me to read, please send them to me. I always have my social media link down below. I'm not sure when she's coming out with the second part, but if it comes out this week, obviously I'll have it for next weekend. If not, I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and I will see you in the next one. Bye. During the middle of that, I literally had like a cough attack because I have a tickle in my throat. Oh, it's rough. All right, see ya. So if it looks like, oh yeah, but if it looks like I'm crying at all, that's why. Okay, bye.